And we are live. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Kosmographia, the Randall Carlson podcast. We are live and joined by Randall, of course, Brad, and Peter. Peter has a channel where he does astrophotography classes. Teaches people how to do it. Shows you how. That's kind of tell from the photo behind him there. You said you watched one of his videos.
Yeah. It's very informative. And finding out that it's, I guess, an older one. But it was still great.
Still great. The good stuff's on
I learned a lot.
I'm
also interested in astrophotography. But I didn't know it was called that until I watched that. Anyways.
Right. So since it's the end of the world, we figured it's a good time to teach everybody how to take pictures of the sky because it's about to kill us all. How are you doing, Randall?
Doing well. Actually.
Where's your mic?
Pick up that microphone.
Is this better?
There it is.
Okay. I don't know what's wrong with this arm.
Crank that arm down. Yeah, it's getting loose on you.
Getting loose.
I hate it when the arms get loose.
Yeah.
Look at you with the big old studio, man. You got like elbow room. Do that again.
All right, somebody's saying there's an echo. We got to figure out what's going on here with the audio.
Reco.
Echo.
All right, I'm still trying to get into the chat mode. Excuse me.
All right, we're looking at it. Sorry about the echo.
I don't know what that could possibly be.
Okay.
Maybe that was it. I don't even know why that was in there.
Bleep, blap, echo. Everybody, or just somebody in particular?
Well,
so Peter's gone on multiple trips with us, starting out in the southwest, and got to know him a little bit. Came up to lands with his girlfriend, and we've got a geologist slash photographer that's made several trips also, and Peter impressed the hell out of him with everything that he knew. So we wanted to get him in on Star Watching Night. Tau Herculids coming in. Peter Zelinka here is like one of the people that are really getting into the how-to scene, and he offers astrophotography courses, and he's just going to hang out with us tonight, and obviously from that picture background, he's got some cool stuff in his catalog already. So welcome, Peter.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. We got Randall Carlson in the new studio, right? The bookcases are not 4 feet behind him. They're 24 feet behind him. So yeah, we're all excited about everything that's going to happen in that new space right there.
Oh yeah, we got more lights, microphones on order, so we can do guests around the new conference table, which of course that's just the raw wood. It's going to be veneered with the Kosmographia compass rose logo inlaid. It's going to look pretty slick.
Yeah, I'm excited to see that, and we know you got some European craftsmen that are really highly skilled and intent on doing excellent work. So I know that's going to just come out awesome, and I'm really anxious to see that with the Kosmographia compass rose logo right there, dab in the middle of it.
Right dab in the middle. Yes, sir. Yeah, it's going to be slick. Let's see. I got it. Okay, right here. We're going to be putting up a whiteboard in a day or two. And we're going to have acoustic curtains mounted under these shelves right here that we can open or close depending. If we're doing a conference around the table and we've got multiple microphones, according to Kyle, we needed to hang curtains or put some kind of baffling up there. So we're going to do the curtains, Kyle, because then we can pull the curtains back and have full exposure of the wall.
Yeah, that's going to be great.
Yeah. It is.
Well, we'll probably get you a rug too, and put it under that table. I guess that's going to make it hard for the chairs to roll around, but that those are good for absorption also. But so far you sound great, so I don't know if it's going to be a problem either.
You need a rug, Randall, that really ties the room together, man.
Yes, because people actually too frequently come in here and like to urinate on the floor.
Oh,
So-
man.
That went the wrong direction.
No, I'm sure everybody there everyone knows the reference to Big Lebowski.
You got to
I
know
watched
Big
some
Lebowski.
clips from that the other night.
I just saw a clip from I didn't even know this was by them, the Ballad of Buster Scruggs. You seen any of that?
Buster
That's
Scruggs. That
pretty
sounds so
crazy
familiar.
stuff.
Nope.
But I am prohibiting my dogs from coming in because they want to come in so bad. I see them sitting outside the door with a forlorn look on their face, but I go, guys, sorry, your dogs. You shed, you got dirt, you're not allowed in the new studio.
You got highly functioning equipment in there that cannot handle dog hair.
Yeah,
That's
don't let
right.
the dogs in.
And if you
That's
see those dogs, they're like polar bears. They are prepared for Arctic if you look at them.
Actually, Brad, they are polar bears, but I let people believe they're dogs because it's illegal to have polar bears in Decatur.
I know Otis is a polar bear.
All right, so we fixed the echo.
And now we got camera
And killed your camera.
Yeah, Kyle's killed the camera, but I'm saying the echo is fixed. So some of that stuff you guys said about Peter going back and forth here in the beginning, maybe you can just say it again because people really couldn't understand.
Yeah,
because
that echo was
It
real
was really bad,
Sorry
yeah.
about that, folks.
Said we love Peter Zelinka. No, I don't know how. I don't want to spend whatever. Yeah, he's been on some trips with us, and we had another photographer on a trip with us that's we think highly skilled, and he was really impressed with Peter.
That's
So
right, yeah.
I thought that was saying a lot. And as much as we like to watch the stars and track the skies, Peter's doing that more or less as a business, and he does courses and tutorials, and he's a big presence right now on HowTube, which Randall and the whole team are partners with. So we're excited that he's able to put that there and kind of stretch what HowTube's capable of, and sell his wares and get more people looking up at the sky at night. So yeah, we're all for that, and happy to have him with us here. And I know he's going to be on some more tours with us. So you take some courses and then come out with us, and you can pick his brain right there on site.
Yeah, that's one of the things that, when you guys do your trips, they're usually out in pretty dark skies. So we got plenty of time at night during the trips. You can always go out there with a camera and get some pretty cool stuff.
Yeah, we try to include some of that where we get some good nighttime viewing. And a lot of places we go do provide that opportunity quite effectively. So we'll probably get some of that in a couple of weeks when we're out in western Montana. Before we dive into Peter's stuff, do we need to talk about the upcoming expedition tour?
Yeah, we should.
excursion?
For sure.
Well, Montana's full, and that's coming up basically in 10 days. We can talk about the Scablands if you want. What were you thinking, Randall? I was thinking of jumping into these Tau Herculids. It's going to happen potentially in a couple hours, and maybe hugely devastating or surprising. It's really the first passing that we're going to intersect this stream after it disintegrated. Firstly, they tracked it in 1995, and then again apparently another level of disintegration in 2006. So yeah, we may see nothing tonight, but we may see quite a show, and who really knows? So I'm gonna get out there after we're done here after midnight here on the East Coast, and go look skyward.
I got a couple articles we can go through a bit if you want. They're pretty interesting.
Thank you, Bruce. Batman.
Yeah, Bruce gave us $20 beer money.
Hey, thanks, Bruce.
Says see you guys in 2 weeks.
Yeah, and also thanks to Anthony Estrada. He says,
Breckenridge.
first show I caught live, donated $2. Thanks, buddy.
Thanks.
Tony.
So yeah, space.com, there's this interesting article I found about this. It was actually published in 2006. It says Comet breakup points to possible meteor shower in 2022. So they were reporting on this in 2006. It says Comet 73P Schwarzmann-Wachmann 3, or just SW3, began fracturing in 1995. The breakup has accelerated in recent weeks as the comet again approaches the sun, as it does every 5.3 years. Spitzer has returned an infrared image of the scene, revealing 36 chunks, in addition to a broad stripe in the sky created by smaller pebbles and dust. The material glows in infrared because it is heated by the sun. On each orbit around the sun, the comet lays down a new debris stream along a slightly different path. Each stream spreads out over time. When Earth passes near the comet's dusty trails every year, bits of debris burn up in our atmosphere, creating a minor meteor shower called the Tau Herculids. In 2022, a recent study concluded Earth is expected to cross closer to the comet's main trails, potentially producing a heavier meteor shower. And another spike of these could occur in 2049. Caltech scientist William Reach, who led the Spitzer observations, said they might change expectations for 2022. He said it was unlikely that the 2022 event would be a major one, but the door is open, he said. He said the big chunks coming off the comet move backwards before dispersing. That is something that is not predicted in existing computer models. So to forecast what Earth will plow through in 2022 will now require some reworking of these models. So that's interesting that they in 2006, when they were doing this study, they were seeing basically an anomalous deceleration of the chunks that were breaking off the comet, which forced them to revise some of their models about how comets break up.
Yeah, and that's been one of the issues as far as trying to understand the groupings, the families and subfamilies of meteor streams.
Yeah.
And how they become actually dispersed. Particularly, that's been one of the issues with the Taurid stream. Because there's actually, I think, 3 or 4 meteor streams that are all like cousins to each other.
Okay. So I have another article here this is from earthsky.org, so this one's much more recent. This is May 30th, 2022. So this one says, intense meteor display possible from Comet SW3. On May 30th or 31st in 2022, we might have a brief but intense meteor display thanks to a comet that split apart in 1995 and is still apparently fragmenting. It might happen as Earth passes through a particularly dense stream of icy particles which the comet left behind in the years 1995, 1897, and 1892. If it does happen, we will see a grand display of meteors, and even if it doesn't, this comet is one you'll want to come to know. The meteor shower is the Tau Herculids. Its parent comet is 73P Schwarzmann-Wachmann 3. Astronomers found this comet in 1930. It orbits the sun every 5.4 years, and the comet will be in our evening sky again in July and August of 2022. But it is not intrinsically bright. However, it is exceptionally interesting. In 1995, astronomers watched as this comet began to fracture and litter its orbit with an increasing amount of debris. That's why, by some recent calculations, the May 2022 Tau Herculid meteor shower might be intense. This will be an all-or-nothing event, says Bill Cook, who leads NASA's Meteoroid Environment Office. If the debris from SW3 was traveling more than 220 miles per hour when it separated from the comet, we might see a nice meteor shower. If the debris had slower ejection speeds, then nothing will make it to Earth and there will be no meteors. So after the initial discovery in 1930, despite its relatively short orbit around the sun, no one saw the comet again until 1979. Why not? Astronomers missed it partly because of its intrinsic faintness, and the astronomers were also looking in the wrong place in the sky. Their inaccurate orbital calculations were due to occasional close sweeps of this comet past Jupiter. The close passes near mighty Jupiter changed the comet's orbit. And then people began to see the comet again. With the exception of 1985, astronomers have caught it on every return near the sun since 1979. In 1995, Comet SW3 suddenly brightened by a factor of nearly 7 magnitudes. In other words, it got 600 times brighter. And for a while, it could be seen with the unaided eye. A month after this outburst, observers using telescopes noticed that the nucleus, or core, of SW3 had split into pieces, and they ultimately determined that the comet split into 4 parts, with 2 parts disintegrating and 2 parts remaining, still following the original comet's orbit around the sun. So by 2006, 2 things had become clear. The comet had by then fragmented into at least 68 pieces, and it was still falling apart. And that's where the story of the possible Tau Herculid meteor shower in 2022 gets even more interesting. So we don't know what we'll see when the comet comes back in 2022. It returned in 2011, but it wasn't well placed for observers that year as it stayed mostly behind the sun. In 2017, astronomers observed the main component along with one new fragment. The nuclei or multiple cores of this comet are small. For instance, the largest part, component C, is only about 0.6 miles or 1 kilometer in diameter. So for there to be a good meteor shower in 2022, 3 pieces of the puzzle must fall into place. First, a large number of particles must have been expelled from the comet's nucleus during its 1995 breakup. This does appear to be true, as images taken at that time indicate. Second, the breakup of the comet would have had to eventually push the material forward in its orbit. As a comet orbits the sun and ejects material, let's assume that particles go in all directions. Those pushed backward will assume a slower speed, and governed by the laws of gravity, they'll fall closer to the sun. And since they're now closer to the sun, they speed up, and in time they'll pass the comet on their smaller orbits and get ahead of the comet. Images of the 2006 passage of the comet show that large chunks in a temporary orbit behind one of the larger fragments. And finally, the comet must eject the material at a speed fast enough to assume this new orbit. A speed of about 60 miles per hour is necessary to pull this off. This is faster than typical, but the major outburst and breakup of the comet's nucleus in 1995 might have been strong enough to produce this speed. So if all 3 of these conditions are met, we will have the perfect storm.
60 miles per hour.
Yeah.
Relative to what?
To the core.
To the core.
Right.
Okay. Got it.
Yeah. So it's like classic orbital mechanics. It comes off the comet and has this deceleration, which drops it closer to the sun, which speeds it up. And then if all of that happens, then we'll run into the stream.
Mm-hmm.
So it'll be interesting to see if it happens.
Yeah. Sort of wanting to share a screen here with a famous graphic.
Go for it.
All right. Let's see if I can.
I like that being differentiated, though, that it's not always just the same velocity coming in. There's a difference between if it's catching up behind the Earth, right, or if it's going the opposite direction or a perpendicular direction. You can have much more severe impacts or not so serious impacts. It could come in, fairly slowly in cosmic terms. We talk about, or Randall's talked about the direct impact of a very dense object possibly creating the hotspot that's still under Yellowstone. So if you have something that comes in perpendicular, right, it can shoot right through the lithosphere. But if you have something that's kind of catching up just barely, it may barely leave a mark, but it still do some damage, obviously. So yeah, what's Randall got here now?
Are we seeing my edit screen or my presentation screen?
It's a black and white kind of old looking woodcutter.
Yeah, it looks like the presentation screen to me.
Yeah, good. Okay. So this was 1833, and you can see the folks are coming out and they're all looking up. And the reason they're looking up is because of this. So that's what I'm hoping for tonight.
Yeah, that would be great.
Snow shower from the sky.
This is like 30,000 meteors per hour. The estimate at some of the peak viewing positions. So this was a lot of people.
I hope so, but I don't know.
The Great Leonid storm of November 13th, 1833 is seen from New England. So a lot of these people thought this was it. I don't know. I'm looking close. I don't see. Oh, yeah. In the distance, you see a couple of them bending over, ready to kiss their butts goodbye.
That's what I was going to say. Get your puckering pose ready.
Yeah. I mean, seriously, a lot of people, the eyewitness accounts, these people thought this was it. It was the end of the world. The apocalypse was on them. And then here's one taken from sea. I mean, not taken from sea, but somebody sketching out what they saw. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, that is cool. I hope it's grand. That would be great. We got clear skies out here, so we'll be out.
Yeah, well, it's just too bad we're all not out together on a trip. This wasn't happening when we were out in Montana or somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we'll see. So the peak is going to be between 11 and 1, or
Yeah, I think something
I
like that.
understand. Yeah.
Yeah, 12 and 1, but yeah,
12
they
and 1.
obviously can expand that. But yeah, I was amazed that's that tight of a parameter. So if we were going to photograph such a thing, Peter, you got some recommendations on that? I know it's kind of a hit or miss. So yeah, people could sit out there and not see anything, but it could be incredible. And it's like, oh man, I wish I had my damn camera, right?
Yeah. If you guys want, I can share my screen and show you Stellarium and give you some ideas.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Sure. Kyle Delisle, thanks, bud.
Yeah, I also want to
Can
thank...
you guys see that?
Yeah,
Yes.
real quick before you go, I also want to thank Steven, $5, donated $5, says, keep it up. Thanks. Chris Byman, $5.
Hey,
Chris Byman
Bymes.
is the drummer in $50 Dynasty, which is our band. Yeah. And we just released the album on Patreon, which has the intro music to Cosmographia in it. By the way.
Take a minute for that if you want to, Kyle.
Yeah, so we will be releasing the album for free on June 21st, the solstice. But it is right now available for early release on Patreon if you want to support the band. You can get there. There's the music's in there. What's going to be the vinyl artwork is in there. And then I've written some, blurbs on each song and some ideas that are, I guess, important to the purpose of the songs, what their meaning is, or what to think about. And yeah, it's 12 songs. Name of the album is Precession. So it is on Patreon at patreon.com/$50 Dynasty, all spelled out. And it will be on streaming platforms on the 21st. So
for the solstice, yeah. All right, perfect. Yeah, and I've heard half the songs at least, and they're outstanding. And yeah, I love it, and can't wait to hear the whole record in sequence. So yeah, congratulations, guys. That's really amazing. I know you've been working on that for years.
Yeah, thank you very much. And also, 757 donated $20. Yeah. Thank you so much, 757. All right, sorry about that, Peter.
757.
Yeah, that was his name.
Don't say anything, Randall.
Peter, it's your turn.
All right. So yeah, if you want to head out tonight, the Herculids are going to be pretty much directly overhead for the most part. And with that said, if I were you, I'd probably just lay it out in your backyard or anywhere really and just look up. If you're using a camera though, you can kind of see here that there's quite a few meteorites coming off, and the radiant would be right here. So what I've seen personally is whenever I'm photographing the meteor showers, it's actually better to look a little bit away from them with your camera. So maybe aim up over towards the south or the west, the north, whatever, rather than directly overhead. And that should get you the more long streaks. And then in terms of your camera settings, you're going to want to use a high ISO, maybe 6400, and then a shutter speed between 15 and 30 seconds. And then from there, just let it run. Have it taking a photo every 30 seconds or so, and hopefully get some cool shots with taking a couple hours worth of photos.
So how much, like if you take a couple hours of photos at 15 to 30 seconds, how much space does that take up?
Well, I mean, on my camera, if I'm shooting in RAW, if I take 400 photos, that's probably maybe 5 to 10 gigs worth of data.
That's not bad.
And if you have like one of the really high-end cameras, it could be a lot more because those files are a lot larger.
So what's your favorite camera to use?
Well, I'm partial to the one I own, obviously, but that's the Nikon D780 because for all things astrophotography, it really has quite a few nice features because for most cameras, you can only shoot about 30 seconds. And then if you want to shoot anything longer than that, you have to attach a remote and do all this other stuff. But with the D780, for whatever reason, that's one of the few cameras that you can shoot longer than 30 seconds. And you could shoot 4 or 5 minutes if you want to. And you'd mainly do that if you're photographing nebula or the Milky Way with a star tracker, something like that.
Do you use any special lenses, or is it just...
Well, that's the crazy thing. In my courses over on HowTo, one of the things I show you, I've got the Milky Way course right now, and the whole goal of that is just to show you how to photograph a photo like this, where you can see the Milky Way, And you really just need a normal DSLR and a wide angle lens. And with that fairly modest setup, you can get some pretty cool shots.
Excellent. So that's available on your HowTube stuff. So that you have a YouTube channel, but that's your older stuff. You're putting the newer things on HowTube.
Yeah, back in February, I decided to just kind of go through and redo all my courses. And when I started hearing about HowTube from Randall, I looked into it more and I realized that'd be like the perfect place to put everything, because you can put links to the gear that I'm using, because you wouldn't believe the amount of comments I get people asking for a random clamp or cable I'm using. You can also, I don't know if I could show it here or not, but anyway, I write out like a full description for every single video so you can print those out and take them with you. But honestly, HowTube has been awesome, because the old way of doing things, you would just download the videos and that was about it. But now you can have a full compendium of information right there.
Okay. So. Excellent.
So that's one of the things I was going to try to help push along, that one of the features of HowTube is you can have all those products that you're talking about in your instructional videos, and you can describe them, and they're right there if people want to go check them out and actually purchase them. It's a very simple thing to do through the HowTube system. So excited that you've gotten into that, and really kind of helping them move it along on how their functionality works, because you do have so many photography products that you can talk about. So I'm fascinated to get into one of these courses myself. So that's coming up this summer, hopefully.
Yeah, what I would say though is there's at least one free course on there that I've got if you're interested in astrophotography at all, and that would give you a good idea of how HowTube actually works for doing courses. Maybe you want to do one for yourself, you can always sign up and do one. And I know a lot of us are looking forward to Randall's courses he's going to be putting up there sooner or later, so that'll be cool.
Absolutely. Yeah, and if there's a link, we can put that in the description here so people can jump right to it.
And one other point I wanted to mention is that if you head over to my HowTube page, under the playlist on my channel, there's a series on catastrophes, and in the 4th video, there's this really cool game out there that really shows you the whole orbital mechanics that you guys were talking about earlier. There's comets and planets and the sun, and that's honestly been the best resource I've found to just really visualizing and understanding the motions of the solar system. And you can actually fly around in there, and it's a really interesting game. But
what is it?
That's one of the things. Outer Wilds.
Outer Wilds.
And
yeah,
you can get it on your computer if you have a PC. It's pretty awesome.
Yeah, it's fun.
It's not available for Mac?
It might be. I don't know.
Okay, all right. I was going to throw a fit.
What is it called again?
Outer Wilds.
Oh, Outer Wilds. Okay.
I agree. That's a fun game.
And I pretty much did like a 20-minute playthrough and tried to talk about some things that you see there in the game. So that's all over on HowTube. And I think it'd be interesting to check out. Yeah, for sure.
Excellent.
You got a great voice for this, Peter, too, for what you're doing. I can just, hear that soothing as I'm looking up at the stars and learning about how to operate my camera. Yeah. So even more reason to go check out Peter's Zelinka on howtube.com.
Yeah, one other thing I wanted to show here in Stellarium before we move on is one of the things that Randall always talks about is the great year cycle, and the fact that it's about 25,920 years, the sacred number anyway. But when we break that up into half cycles, that's about 12,900 years roughly. And when it comes to astrophotography, when we're facing south and looking at the Milky Way, this is what it looks like during our modern times. You see the core kind of cuts off right there on the horizon. But if we were to go back during the Younger Dryas roughly, you might be surprised just how much the sky moves. If we go back minus 10,000. Yeah, close enough. And then we go until it gets dark. I don't know, if you're not really familiar with the Milky Way, this might not make much sense, but before we saw the Milky Way kind of cut off on the horizon here, but during the Younger Dryas, it was way higher up in the night sky, and you could see a lot more of it, which that leads you into the whole archaeoastronomy thing, where they can use applications like Stellarium and figure out what these people might have been aligning their monuments to based on how the stars looked back then. And then
cool.
One other thing is as you guys probably know, the North Celestial Pole here, that's the spot that the Earth rotates around. But if you ever do like a star trails photo and face north, you see that really cool circular pattern. But basically, right now our North Star is Polaris, which is located pretty close to the pole right here. And if we put this back to modern day, you can see Polaris is right there. It's just a little bit offset from the North Celestial Pole, which is why we call it the North Star, because it really doesn't seem to move too much compared to everything else. But as you go back in time, the pole star actually changes. And we can see that if we zoom out quite a bit. So we're just going to start flying back through time, and you'll see that the North Celestial Pole starts to make this giant circle throughout the night sky. And that would be another way you can kind of date things. You know, if you somehow built a time machine, you can go back and look up and see what star is up near the North Celestial Pole. If you went back.
Wow. I've never.
This is great. And what it's doing here, it's tracing out an arc.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's leading over here to Vega.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You remember that first time, Brad, you and I were out in the night sky figuring that out?
Yeah, I was gonna say something if you didn't, but yeah, that certainly immediately came to mind. Yeah, that was so enlightening to see. Oh my God, you can see where the rotation is and how the pole stars would shift and where that cycle is and what that precession does. Yeah, it's fantastic. So
that's cool.
To be able to recreate it here with a program, even more incredible.
Is that overlay that's built into Stellarium there?
Yeah, this has so much functionality built in. And
I'd always done the rewinding, but I didn't realize you could just set it to only rewind the year at 1 year at a time. So that makes it way better. That's so good.
Yeah, look at that.
If you just click on the year here, hold down the page down key or page up, and you just fly through time.
Okay. All right. Yeah.
And so, if we go back around the Younger Dryas again, the pole star would have been Vega.
Yeah,
and
it is.
It's not nearly as close as Polaris is today, but
now,
just one more way you can figure that out.
These are dates before present, right? Not BC.
Yeah, because if we go to
date and time in Julian calendar.
This would be Julian date, I think, here, but that's all. I don't even know what that means to me. So
it does go negative. It goes all the way down. You know, it's 2022,
and
then
zero.
It goes to 0, and then it starts going negative.
1 BC, right? So, yeah.
I mean, this is a discussion. Sorry, Randall, for another day or several other days. Yeah, that's something I've been pondering for years. You know, how does it end up if there was a catastrophe 13,000-ish years ago when Vega was the pole star, and now it's the other side of the cycle, and we're kind of expecting maybe something's due? Why would these major events, if they are on a half of a great year cycle, why would it be when we have a pole star?
Yeah, I know that's interesting.
Another thing that Randall always talks about is the precession of the equinoxes. And to be honest, this took me years to really wrap my head around. Then I used Stellarium, like, oh, that makes way more sense. And that's the cool thing. So if we come here to...
And this is free software, right?
Yeah,
yes.
That's one of the things we use in my courses just to help you learn the night sky, because this is such a critical component here. But we have the vernal equinox, right? March 21st, roughly.
Yeah. And there's Pisces in the sun.
Yeah. And they're saying we're moving to the age of Aquarius, so we have that here. What that really means is that the sun is going to rise in the constellation of Aquarius. And as hundreds and thousands of years move on, we can see now that the sun is rising in Aquarius in the year 4000. And then it would go to Capricorn, Sagittarius, Scorpius, Libra, etc. And so really what's happening is just that these constellations, from our point of view, are just kind of following this band. And
so can you crank up the speed there and let it roll for a minute? Yeah. So it's precessing the night sky, the constellation seems to be moving in reverse of their normal motion.
Yes.
Right? If you were watching them pass over you in the night sky, they go that way. But
yeah, they're going this direction.
Right. But if you look once a year they're going the other direction slightly, very slowly.
And they say it's about, what is it, 2,100 something per.
Yeah, 2160
per constellation, roughly.
Now that's idealized because that would imagine that each constellation takes up 30 degrees of arc.
Yeah.
In the sky, but which they don't. You know,
Right.
I mean, Pisces is huge. It's this long, giant connection of bright stars.
Compare that angle of Pisces subtended from the Earth compared to the angle of Aries, and you'll get that.
Same thing with Virgo here, it looks like.
Yeah, Virgo's a large constellation.
Here you're in Leo, which has been suggested as the age when the Sphinx was built. That's what was rising with the sun on the vernal equinox right there was Leo. So that'll happen again in 16,502.
Time for a new
one thing that popped in my head the other day is that, if we think about the great years, about 25,920 years or 26,000 years, and if I think I did my math right, if we take 100 great years, that would be right at the start of the Pleistocene, right?
Yep.
Which is another interesting coincidence.
I know. Yeah.
This is great, man. I'm learning. I'm gonna have to play with Stellarium again. I didn't realize you could move time like that. That's great.
Yeah, I've got a video on HowTube as well that kind of goes through this whole great year thing and ties it into Astro. So if you're interested, it's all over there on HowTube.
Awesome.
Okay.
But yeah, that's kind of about all I wanted to show, I think, in here. So
that's great, man. We got a couple more people to thank. David Stig Hansen, $108.
Thank you,
buddy.
Awesome, dude.
Secret.
Who is that, David? David
secret
who?
Esoteric number there.
Yeah.
David Stig Hansen. We met him in Sedona.
He was in Sedona there. Yep.
I thought the name was familiar. That's why I was asking. Thanks, David.
Yeah, he wanted to bash you on some Atlantis ideas, but yeah, he seemed to be open-minded.
Well, yeah, you got to nail Randall. You know, you got to bash him whenever you get a chance.
Yeah.
And also
108 though, we get it.
Yeah, Chuck, $20. Thank you, buddy. We'll see you soon. I know you're going.
Yeah, Chuck says he's getting ready to head out, hoping to get some great photos of the celestial antics. And Peter's courses are great, so he said it was great
he's
to
already
see
seen
him
your
in
courses.
Here. Yeah.
Cool. Also,
Geologist Chuck rocks.
Yeah, Chuck's become a good friend on several tours now, and he's contributed a lot.
He's over coming to Montana.
Yeah.
Thanks, Chuck.
I take back some of those things I've been saying about you, Chuck. But I'm not taking back.
We stick to what we've been saying about you, Chuck.
That's right. Everything we've said, we stand by.
We'll stand by it.
That goes into the censored version.
So
Randall, you want to talk about disintegrating comets at all, and past events, or I don't know, just or just take some questions on this stuff, whatever.
Yeah, I'm thinking about Plato's comment from Timaeus. Remember, after the usual interval,
oh man,
the stream from heaven, like a pestilence, comes pouring down.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Yep.
He was warning us, wasn't he?
Sounds like it. Yeah.
At the regular interval. Yeah.
At the usual interval. And after opening the story with the tale of Atlantis with the myth of Phaeton, that's got to be auspicious. I don't think he just randomly thought, hey, we'll throw that in there at the beginning of the story. I think it was intended to provide some major hints about what was happening.
And I wonder if those guys have any sense of, can I make a ripple down the timeline of humanity? Will people read this in 1,000 years and get what I'm trying to put out? I wonder if somebody that intelligent and, connected has those thoughts. Do you have those thoughts, Randall?
I never have thoughts like that.
Oh, come on. I think it comes with the territory, because when you start reading texts that are 1,000 years old or more, then you're like, man, if I wrote something, it's possible that somebody could be reading it in 1,000 years and trying to figure out what it says. I mean, that's what I think. So.
Okay. Yeah, I tend to agree with that. So let's see here. We could go through some interesting stuff here, maybe. Near Earth objects. Let's talk about some near Earth objects and the
NEOs. That's what's behind me.
Yeah.
A map of NEOs. Yeah. And potentially PHAs, potentially hazardous asteroids.
Yeah. All right. Let's see what we got.
There's more than a few.
I think I can get this. Yeah, this is are you getting this now? Let's see.
Not yet.
Share it. There we go. That's an early version of what I've got. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the early version. And really, the reason I wanted to pull this up was because when you compare the two, this is from the 90s, the one that I've got up here.
Yep.
So when you compare the two, it really does drive home the point of how many of these things are being discovered in our own times. So let's see if we can. Oh, yeah, there's Earth's orbit in there. So here's our evolving census of near Earth objects. First asteroid discovered, Ceres, 1801. Then 1898, first asteroid seen approaching the Earth, which was Eros. 1932 was the first asteroid that crossed Earth's orbit, that was seen to cross Earth's orbit. That's an Apollo asteroid that gave its name to a family of asteroids called the Apollos. 1970, now there's about 30 near-Earth objects, or NEOs, that are known. From 1801, when the first one was discovered, now we get to 1990, there's about 135 near-Earth objects that are known. And then we get up to 1999, which is actually when I think I first put this list together. And there was, by that time, at least 400 near-Earth objects known by the end of the century, by 1999. And then I updated it with this note later on that the current estimated number of near-Earth objects larger than 1 kilometer in diameter is 1,500. And I think it's probably more than this now. This is probably still 5 to 8 years ago when I did this, when I added this note here. Let's see what we got here. Yeah, the Willamette Meteorite, which is interesting because this now, the significance of this, and Brad will know immediately the significance of this. The Willamette Valley. What about the Willamette Valley, Brad?
Well, it backed up 400 feet deep with the floodwaters and carried a bunch of icebergs down there. And this was sitting on an iceberg and just kind of grounded itself at the high water mark.
Yeah, in fact, it's sitting in a cluster of basalt erratics. And I think there's some granitic erratics in there too, if I recall. Well, so what that means is you had this cluster of stuff being backwashed into the Willamette Valley from the Missoula floods on an iceberg. When the iceberg melted, this stuff was deposited. And you see here in the meteorite, when it's penetrating the atmosphere, it develops so much friction that it begins to melt. It causes these molten pockets to form, which are called ablation cavities. And so typically what would have happened if this thing had fallen onto the ice sheet and then been incorporated into the glacial ice under normal conditions, the glacial ice would have ground off the delicate tracery here of these ablation cavities. The fact that those ablation cavities exist tell us that the time span between the deposition of the meteor onto the ice sheet and its transport into Washington was a very short period of time. And it was so short that the meteorite didn't have a chance to get buried in the ice, which I think this is interesting because maybe, just maybe, this is a small piece of the great shower that would have happened at the Younger Dryas or at some earlier impact. Just depending on, again, what has to happen here is working out a very precise chronology of these flood events. So, I'm leaning towards the idea that there may have been a 14,600 year ago flood event. But the problem there is if there was a major impact triggering that flood over the western North America, subsequent floods may have destroyed that evidence. And this is why we don't really find any specific thing pointing to a great meteor shower or impact event of 14,600 that coincides chronologically with meltwater pulse 1A, and presumably very close to the time when some of the earlier floods are dated. Anyways, so that's I thought that was an interesting piece of evidence when I discovered about the Willamette Meteor. This was, in fact, before we ever even made our first trip, Brad.
Well, in the sites that I've seen going back in the early days, when I started looking at it, once you introduced it to me, it's like I haven't been able to find how they're coming up with these dates, but they point at like 13,000 years ago. And I don't know how they've pinned in on that. Some of them it's more of a range, 13 to 25. But it's still absolutely appropriate to be during the sudden melting of the ice. And could this be one little section of thousands?
Yes,
thousands that could have just freaking bashed the ice sheet.
Yes, that's what I was thinking. And this thing here too, even though it's coming in at a great rate of speed, its actual when it made landing, it had to be a relatively gentle affair. And we've seen that because heavy iron meteorites have come in through the atmosphere, reach incandescent temperatures, and then by the time though they hit the earth, they barely even break the skin of the earth. They're just almost sitting there on the landscape. So there's some rather interesting atmospheric dynamics going on there for sure. The next one is go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say that I don't remember exactly, but that's in a National Museum in New York City. Still, it's on display there, so you can go up and stand next to it and whatever. So it is, human size. It's, 8 feet by about 10 feet. It's a huge chunk of metal that's been burned on its entry into the atmosphere. And whatever happened after that, it didn't get a lot of erosion and remodeling until it was found. A lot of those edges are very crisp and sharp, so it was not tumbled under a glacier for 10,000 or 100,000 years. I mean, it probably sat on the top and it floated down to Willamette Valley, and that's how they found that thing.
That's precisely
really crazy, incredible.
Yeah, and this is actually this something I got to be learned to do here. For some reason, my it really jumps around. It's super sensitive here.
What are you using to change the images?
I'm using my mouse wheel.
Oh yeah, try using your arrow keys on your keyboard.
Yeah, I'm doing that now. I actually figured that out just at the moment you were saying it.
Okay.
Excuse me. Okay, so
we can also adjust that wheel rate.
Yeah.
Yeah, then he'll be like, the wheel's too slow for everything else.
Yeah. Time-lapse photo. So here you can see, the radiant of the Leonid meteor shower.
Oh man,
time-lapse photograph that was taken back in 2001. But Leonid, of course, because its radiant is focused or aimed towards the constellation of Leo, very close to the star Regulus, which is the shoulder of the lion. And
Peter, I was going to ask Peter about that photo. Like how do you do something like that?
Well, that was probably shot on film back in that time. So if I had to guess, he probably took maybe an hour, maybe 2 hour long photo.
You could estimate the time lapse by the star trails.
Right.
Because that's how much the Earth is spun during this exposure.
Yeah, that's actually a course I'm working on right now for HowTube, is a Star Trails course to show you how to actually take stuff like this. And with modern cameras, you normally just take a bunch of 20-second long photos and then you can stack them together fairly easily and have a photo similar to this.
That's awesome.
And it's really cool if you face north, because then you get the north celestial pole and you get this cool like circular pattern. I can probably.
But with the meteor stream in there, that's pretty awesome right there.
Yeah, you can really see the radiant.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you trace these back, coming out like this. Yeah, they're all centered right in here. And then the next slide kind of shows the basic principle of a radiant, and really how that divergence is an illusion. And what you see at the lower graphic there is that the meteors are actually coming in parallel lines. But it's the same way as if you're walking down a railroad track and you're looking at the rails converging in the distance to a point. But in reality, they're still parallel. So the concentric focus on a particular point is an illusion. It's not real. And then, of course, the name of the meteor shower is not because they are literally coming from that constellation. Again, it's just we're essentially, if you're driving across a road and you stand in the middle of the road and you're looking at the traffic, the oncoming traffic, well, it's only coming from a finite distance away. It's not coming from, if you were to, for example, if you were doing it at night, you were standing in the middle of a road at night and you're looking at the stars, and then you've got cars coming towards you. It will give the appearance that they're coming from that direction of whatever stars on the horizon that you're going to be looking at, but obviously they're not really coming from those stars. And I think I got a graphic coming up here that shows kind of the same idea. So anyways, yeah, that's the radiant, and that's what you've got to understand about watching meteor showers. Leonid meteor shower, again, this was probably taken at the same meteor shower in 2001, the previous slide we were looking at. And there's the star pattern of Leo, and you can see, okay, get my hand off of that mouse. There we go. I was going to use the mouse cursor to show you where you can trace the radiant right here towards Regulus.
And I want to thank people for the donations that are coming in. They're buzzing by. This is the first time I've had the chat open as I'm participating here. So just grateful for everybody to get in there and want to talk about and everything that's going on and contributing. Thank you, Tommy, $108. That's freaking awesome. We need it, and it's going to good use. So yeah, thank you everybody for being here with us live and doing the contributions that you can.
Yeah, we've been keeping track of them so we can go through them when we got a chance.
All donations coming in tonight are going for Brad's hair transplant. So here we have a Leonid fireball, and it's got its own little meteor coming in with it, which I think is kind of cool. And check it out. See it? Look at how it's passing right in front of Orion.
Right across Orion, yeah.
Yeah. I don't know what this is. I found this on the internet years ago, and nobody seemed to know what it was.
Wow.
My recollection of it was a teenager that stayed home from school in Australia and was able to gather that picture. And what I always get of that is the dragon head kind of diamond shape, and then you think about it coming in and
because when fireballs enter the atmosphere, they hiss.
I totally see that, the hissing dragon coming in.
Absolutely. So I'm going to have to update my selected meteor streams with data because I don't have the Herculids on here. But we certainly, in our last pre-recorded episodes, we've been talking about the great firestorms and connected the timing of those firestorms with the Draconid meteor shower, which occurred, which peaks October 7 to 9. So we've got you just posted one of those episodes today, right, Brad? Or am I right? There's two left. You just posted one, or we've got two more left to post?
No, there's one left, 84. So yeah, 82 and 83 come out in the last week. So yeah, I'm trying to pump those out and get the next one out in the next week. Yeah, before we record the next one, whichever we're going to get into next Monday. New topic, yeah. But the firestorms has been really
I'd be very interested in people's thoughts and comments about that. I felt like I was still sitting on the fence with, could it really be caused by a meteor shower of some kind? Then we find out what really seemed to kind of push me off the fence onto the side that, yeah, that seems very possible, was, the 2017 Santa Rosa fire, when I actually found out that there was this flurry of meteorite activity precisely at the time that the fires seemed to ignite.
Yep. That was still to come out. That's the culminating episode, but that's the big story right there.
Damn it! I let the cat out of the bag again.
Bleep.
I thought there were no animals allowed in your studio.
Well, yeah.
Nice cow.
I may let the lion shed. If a lion shows up at my studio door, I'll probably let him in. Okay. Sometime during the fall of 1860, an unusual atmospheric phenomena occurred in the region. That's near, this is back right here in our backyard in Whitfield County, Georgia. A bright light shot across the heavens, followed by a loud report, creating great alarm among the people, many of whom supposed the end of the world had come. This seems to be something that's quite deeply ingrained in the human psyche, is that when these cosmic phenomena happen, one of the first things that conjured up in people's minds is it's the end of the world. And I suspect that probably is something ingrained in us from the fact that our ancestors did experience the end of their world as a result of cosmic events.
Right. And
I'm going to stop this share for a moment because I think that Peter has pulled up a great background image there.
Man, that is cool.
On that last point you were just touching on, I had a very relevant photo to share if you guys want to see.
Yeah, let's see it.
Absolutely. Yeah, sure. Let's see it.
Let's see here. And I think this is one I found from one of your presentations, but let's do this one. Can you guys see this with the Chinese depictions of the comets?
Yep.
Yeah.
And the ones that stood out to me are these ones with the circle and the almost like antenna coming up.
Yeah.
And I found on cave walls out in the Southwest in Utah, weird things like this, where you have very similar.
Yep.
Like, how do you come up with that just off the top of your head? And you have maybe 4 comets over here.
Yeah, I mean, it's almost seems to be right in your face.
Those also look like, some of those Chinese depictions look like the Paracas candelabra down there off the coast of Peru.
Wow.
Very similar. I might be able to find a picture of that and show what I'm talking. Oh, that's right. We can't share.
What kind of Randallabra?
The Paracas
Randallabra. It's it's got a lot of beards on it.
Well, you know that the original meaning of comet also did include beard as well as long-haired. So,
please Randall Cometson.
And see, have you guys ever noticed, now speaking of the, how fascinating entomology is? And
etymology?
No, entomology.
Entomology.
No, etymology.
Etymology. Okay, yeah.
Etymology.
Bugs or words?
Not the bugs.
Okay.
Bugs or words. Words about bugs. Oh, words. Sorry. It must be getting late. I think it's past my bedtime. Etymology, think about this. Think about whenever you are writing a sentence and you want to have a little pause in the sentence, what do you insert? A comma, right?
Oh, yes, of course.
A coma. So, and then you look at it, and what does it look like?
Yeah, it's
looks like a little comet with a tail. So that's something you can add into your courses, Peter.
So are any questions coming through there? I can't keep up with this.
Yeah,
my stuff is off to the side, but yeah.
I can go through some of these.
We need to catch up.
Yeah, we got to catch up. So Jason,
where are we time-wise? Hour-ish?
Yeah, we got half an hour left.
Cool.
So Jason Moskowitz, $50, said, when you give the dimension of St. Mary's as 39.6 by 68.6 feet, why use the decimal rather than inch fractions? Does this have to do with pre-Julian 10-month years? And he says
that's primarily just so you can see the numerical associations clearer.
Okay.
If you're going to, for example, if you want to calculate the ratio, it's a lot easier in your calculator here. You just take and put in 68.6,
right,
like that, rather than trying to put in inches. And
got it.
Yeah, because you have to convert those anyway.
Yeah, you
have to convert them anyway.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
And of course, here's the thing. I mean, you can round it up. You figure out what your allowable margin of error is, and in this case, I allow like an inch or two on either side, which I don't think in any way negates the ultimate thing that you're looking for, which is the ratio of length to width. And one would not expect, if you even went out and laid out a perfect Route 2 rectangle and you build a building on it, and 1,000 years later, you're trying to reconstruct the system of metrology upon which that structure was based, you're not going to necessarily assume that every dimension is going to be absolutely precise after 1,000 years. And it doesn't have to be. We can look at the Parthenon, and there's been earthquakes in Athens. So the original dimensions of the Parthenon are actually a little bit larger because the earthquakes have caused joints to separate a little bit. But that doesn't mean that you can't use the Parthenon along with other Greek structures and writings and so on to go back and reconstruct a very precise length for the Greek foot. But that's the main reason. It's just it's simple because, for one thing, when you use the decimals, then the numbers that are part of that sacred canon of numbers, they show up. They won't show up if you use feet and inches, and
right,
because then your inches you're talking about, you're going to have to go into what, 1/16 of an inch, and so that's the main
fractions
reason.
Instead of
then you're talking about fractions.
Right. Well, thank you,
Randall. Do you want to go? I'm sorry, Russ. Do you want to go into that a little bit more? That was Bly Bond, is that right? Measuring the St. Mary's at Glastonbury, and came up with some numbers that were like, ooh, well, I can't report that these are the numbers that I'm getting.
Well, we'll save that for the Grail series that we're going to be doing.
Yeah, we got some people to thank.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
So thank you, Jason, and good question. We also got Someone Unseen, $5.
Shout out too.
Yeah, and said, thanks guys, the live content is great. Thank you, someone. Morgan Slining, I think that's it, $10, says, big fan of you guys, just curious, I live in Iowa. What was the landscape prior to the flooding and the deposit of so much silt? Just wondering what the land looked like back then.
Oh, well, it depends on where in Iowa, because, actually during the late Pleistocene, those glaciers didn't get as far south as Iowa, but earlier glaciations did. The Kansan, the Nebraskan, they got as far south as as Iowa. So Iowa, a lot of Iowa was glacial outwash plain. And it's not really the subject of tonight's episode, but we could circle back to that. Some of the new LiDAR maps and things are quite interesting because you can really see the flows of water, of meltwater, the depositional morphology of the landscape. So a lot of Iowa, with the exception of the northeast corner of Iowa, which is part of the driftless area. A lot of Iowa is so level and plain because of and flat because of the fact that it was all glacial outwash. In other words, very large amounts of glacial material being spread out because of sheet flooding, sediment-laden sheet floods moving out, and then ultimately focusing into the Mississippi River Valley, and all, of course, heading towards the Gulf of Mexico.
And there's some incredibly detailed topographic maps now that can show, how far the moraine came, how the recessional moraine kind of backed up across those territories. I was one of those places specifically where that's really visible. And, just so apparent to me as I drove cross country last time to do our trip out there with Randall and Graham in Washington, just to drive through Ohio and know that that's part of glacially flattened area. And then you go into the Dakotas and it's like, okay, this is flooding from melting from Lake Agassiz and other places north. And then you go into these other oversized river channels, and it's just, you get a sense for the landscape that was just totally revamped by these geologic processes that, have been on in function of the Earth for millennia and, millions of years. And we've only been here this short time, but to see it in the landscape as you drive across this country is so stunning to me. And I'm so happy to know that people are driving to these events to see us and travel with us and get a sense of these things, because the picture of what a huge event or series of events it has been at the end of the last ice age to resculpt the topography of this country is just incredible. So the more you listen to Randall, the more it comes clear and the more you want to get out and see it. So hang with us on Kosmographia.
Yeah, and I would say that how it resculpted the entire continent.
Hell yeah.
Of course, the whole country. But yeah, I mean, as you cross, I'm thinking about my last drive through Indiana, you've got that flat outwash plain, and then you get up there, and then you're getting up into the moraine, and you realize that you go from flat to suddenly it becomes very hilly, and now you're up in the moraine. Oh yeah, that's a great map
nice
there. This is the national map database here. Yeah, look at this. So we're seeing this is southern. Let's see.
Well, you can make out the bottom of Lake Michigan there, and then Lake Erie too. Yeah.
Lake Erie, yeah, and then Michigan here. So there's moraine right in here. You can see these arcuate features here.
Well, we don't see your cursor, Randall.
Oh, well, okay. I can see it though.
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, I did a little catastrophe mini series, and the whole point of that was just to give people the tools where they can look at all this stuff for themselves. And this was the first video I did was the National Map Viewer. I've got a link, and I show you how to use the proper filter here. But I mean, you don't have to have a geology degree to just look on this and say, wow, clearly a lot of water came through here.
Hell yeah,
and that's
absolutely.
That's the great thing with modern tech is now an average person can load this up and see the landscape, whereas normally they have no idea what's actually there.
Well, this is, we use this as a tool. I mean, we have before our trips and our tours that we do with the groups, we do a series of briefings where we meet and we do a digital conference like Zoom, and we go through a lot of this so that you can kind of get the big picture, because really to get it, you have to also, I mean, just like Brad was saying, I mean, you don't really get it until you're out spending time in the landscapes, and then the story will begin to reveal itself. And then when it does, that's when you begin to really grasp how the magnitude of this story. Yeah.
So still that's nearly impossible. That the magnitude is, as Kyle and Russ have said after going to the Scablands the first time or first couple times, even, it's like you really can't grasp the immensity, even though you're in it. It's so huge. Yeah. It's really beyond a human perception.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
One thing I don't understand though is, like, for the Scablands, why are they so, mainstream geology, why are they so hesitant to just include all of these obviously floodwater carved valleys? Like, they try to say all of this erosion came from Glacial Lake Missoula, but they seem to ignore all of this.
Ethnocentrism.
Well, that is beginning to change. Like Chris Cottrell over at All the Randall You Can Handle just posted a new video today with our good buddy Jerome Lessman, who Brad and I have been out in the field with, studying drumlins up in the Okanagan Valley and the Fraser Plateau and the Omak Plateau. And he's been out with Nick Zentner, and they're looking at evidence that the Okanagan Valley was a conduit for major southward directed meltwater flow. So Chris commented that the fact that Zentner, I don't know, I haven't looked at his work enough yet. I mean, it seems really, really good work. I think he's not deviated too much from the conventional interpretation. But I think Chris's comment about this being a game changer could be that, yeah, he's coming on direct, and I haven't watched it yet except for like the first minute. And he's commenting that him and Jerome are up there in the Okanagan Valley looking at evidence for major southward directed meltwater flows that might even be, I didn't use the word catastrophic, but clearly when you see the scale of that, which we've been up there multiple times now, undoubtedly catastrophic.
And anything that opens the door to other water sources than Lake Missoula is a, it's going in the right direction. So if they're looking north and there's Okanagan River Valley impounded lakes, like I know Jerome has been telling us for years. I met Jerome in 2009, so we've been talking about this stuff, and it's like, yep, it's all up here. But the idea that the American scientists don't want to give credit to a Canadian source for their features is just, it's so strange. But that just seemed to be all along what is like they're sticking to. And I want to say, yeah, thanks for sharing those maps, Peter, because those are excellent, and Randall's used those a bunch of times, and I actually include that link in every podcast episode because they're so great to look at. So yeah, it's just a quick sample of the cool stuff you can see just perusing through there with if you've got the correct layers activated.
Yeah, I think it's elevation tinted hillshade is the
tinted hillshade. There you go. Yep.
Yeah, I like to play with that because by playing with the tinting, you can really begin to it helps you differentiate the features. And that's a powerful tool. That's a very powerful tool. And so yeah, we're going to be up there in a couple of weeks. We'll all be up there. Sorry, you're not going to be with us, Peter, but the rest of us four are all going to be up there in some of those beautiful, very majestic mountain valleys of western Montana, exploring the evidence for the giant. Let me say this. I call it Lake Missoula, right? I use the word lake because that's a common term for the body, the volume of water that occupied these mountain valleys of western Montana, right? Even though, and I want to make this clear, I don't think of it in terms of a standard lake of a static body of water. The model of the outburst floods the Missoula floods is that the ice dam lasts anywhere from, say, 30 to 100 years, a minimum of 30 or 40 years to reform, which to me doesn't make sense. But then up to, say, 100 years for the lake to slowly rise until it reaches that tipping point, busts through the dam and drains out, but never any explanation about where you get 600 plus cubic miles of water ultimately from. I repeat that question over and over again. Okay, you're kicking the ultimate cause of the floods over into western Washington. You've kicked the can up the road to this lake basin, but it doesn't stop there. Because that water had to come from somewhere. Was it rainfall? Well, where the hell did all that rainfall come from? And how do you have that much rainfall and have a stable ice mass that can withhold, hydraulic heads of water up to 2,000 feet deep? That makes no sense. I'm sorry. It makes no sense. If it's meltwater, well, then clearly it's meltwater in any conventional model of meltwater. It's the snout of the glacier that's melting. Everything we've seen with melting glaciers in modern observations is that as proglacial lakes form, the glacier is receding because it's melting. But now we're supposed to imagine that somehow we've accumulated all this water at the same time that the glacier lobe is advancing. But it's completely contradictory to what we've actually witnessed and observed in our own times. So I think that really the time is overdue for a relook at the origins of these great floods. And we have to look to the north because you might have had several 100,000 cubic miles of ice over southern Cordillera. If we look, at some point I did a rough calculation of the volume of Cordilleran ice that occupied the watershed of the Columbia River. And it's a lot of ice. And it was filling those mountain valleys up to 10,000 feet thick. Now that ice is gone now. So it had to have melted. It had to have turned into meltwater. There was only one direction it could drain, and that's to the south. And I think that the complexity of these flood events is due to the fact that we have to look at the entire recession and melting away of the southern Cordilleran ice. And this may have taken 2,000 to 3,000 years to get rid of all of it. I'm sure it did. But that doesn't mean that juxtaposed on top of that, there was one or two or maybe three events that were outsized compared to all of the rest. And if we accept that, then we have to go the next step, and we have to look for a trigger, because an outsized melting event isn't just going to happen. There has to be an energy source, and this is the point I've been hammering on for years. There has to be an energy source. And what is that energy source? Well, I think that internal processes aren't going to do the job. We have to look out there.
Obviously, it's electric universe.
Shut up, levity boy.
We got
this. This is the kind of stuff that we ponder, on our trip. So I'm looking at the itinerary today and finding some new spots. And so at the very southern end of Lake Pend Oreille is a nice point called Yokalaups Point.
Oh,
so we're gonna go there. I mean, the common name is McDonald, but we're gonna get out there and look up the Pend Oreille Valley and that 1,400 or 1,200 foot deep lake that they test scale submarines in. It's so huge and deep, and ponder the ice dam and the Purcell Trench lobe and the 800 million cubic feet per second of water rushing through there. We're gonna go stand down there. So that's the kind of stuff that we do on these tours, and that's gonna be one of the first stops on our Montana trip in 2 weeks. So
yeah,
we're gonna do it again next September. These things are a lot of fun, and we hope you can get on and join with us. But I'm excited about getting everybody on that point and looking up the gullet of this lake and the ice dam that busted catastrophically.
Yeah, we are going to ponder Pend Oreille.
Aye.
there you go.
Yeah, and now you're understanding why it was called Lake Pend Oreille.
One of them.
No, I think, what was it? It's because it looks like an ear.
It does look like an ear.
When you look at the
question mark, ponder, a question mark, a quest, quest,
question mark,
quest.
Yeah.
We did, that was the other episode. Okay,
Yeah.
sorry.
Don't give away the quest. A quest from the Lord. All right,
right.
Let me go through some more of these donations and possible some questions that we got. About 10 minutes left.
Well, you got some questions for Peter?
Cool.
Well, let's see what we got here. Verity Davis gave $20. Says, "Keep up the awesome work, fellas. Thank you."
Thank you, Verity.
From Kyle, we got $10. It says, "It's very interesting how the sun rises in these main / well-known constellations. Do you believe the ages, future and past, were inferred by measurement or by a civilization seeing them all?"
Who's that question? Is it just general?
Well, I think it's in reference to what Peter was showing us.
He was showing us the precession.
But yeah, anybody
of the
can
equinoxes.
answer it. Like, how long
are these civilizations that are watching this happen
and measuring the
measuring
ages, or are we just getting an approximation, the 2160?
Well, I think, like Peter was saying, the signs of the zodiac are an idealized 1/12 or 30-degree subdivision of the entire apparent orbital path of the sun. The plane of the ecliptic, remember, you just picture if you've got the ball of the sun and you've got, let's say the ball of the sun is a basketball and the earth is a ping pong ball or a marble, and they're connected to each other by a long rubber band. And as the earth is going around the sun, that rubber band is sweeping out a plane, the orbital plane, which projected against the vault of fixed stars defines the 12 constellations of the zodiac. And that's what makes those 12 constellations special to ancient peoples, was because they saw all of the action in the sky, the planet movements, the position of the sun, the position of the moon, against the backdrop of those particular 12 constellations. Now, the constellations gave their names to the signs that are attached to the vernal equinox. But as Peter was showing how the vernal equinox is moving, it means that the first sign of spring is moving along with the vernal equinox. So the entire wheel of the zodiac has the illusion of being, in effect, rotated, in a sense. So it has now become offset from the actual constellations or star groupings that gave their names to those signs initially. So I know this is hard to wrap your head around it, but most people don't understand that difference, that there's a difference between the signs and the constellations, and they become offset because of that precessional motion. What was the question again?
Well, they just almost use that, though, to date it. Like if we can go back in time to a spot where they line up, that would give you, obviously that's when they must have done it.
Unless, now see, if they actually kind of line up pretty good around, 2,500 years ago? I mean, it's not that long ago where the sign of Aries is now juxtaposed over the constellation of Aries. Which makes me think, because we know that the zodiac is older than 2,500 years, no question. Does that mean we have to go back perhaps a full precessional cycle? And that's when those correlations were first made? Which would mean, 28,000, 29,000 years ago for the establishment of the first establishment of the zodiac? I don't know. But I've pondered that.
All right. Well, that was a good question from Kyle. Thanks, buddy.
Our buddy Ed Nightingale has got all kinds of commentary on a lot of this stuff, and eventually we'll get him on.
Yeah.
Okay, Rex gave $10. Thank you, Rex. Appreciate that. And Redesi Entertainment, $50. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
No comment there, just a heart. New Phase, 108.13. Thank you very much. That's Tommy, isn't it?
Yeah.
Thank you, Tommy.
Hopefully I'm not doxing you there, Tommy.
Yep. Duly doxed.
She says the most durable substance on Earth is myth. Correct? It's an interesting statement.
Yeah, we're Brad and I are pondering.
She's a thinker.
Well, I think we know about stone that's lasted longer than myth, so can't say it's the most durable. I'll just be mean and
but
shoot
I
it
catch
down.
your
just
meaning.
Completely shoot it down. Yeah,
I get the meaning. And yeah.
Maybe the most durable substance that humans build is myth. There you go.
Thank you, everybody. Really grateful.
All right, we got one from Trevor. $5 says there is a neo-Gothic cathedral called the Chapel of, Nossa Senhora das Vitórias on the Azores. Should we add this to the Azores trip itinerary? Cheers.
I think yes.
Yeah.
I think we'd better add that.
Yeah.
I think yes. I'm with you. Who recommended that?
Trevor Harris.
Trevor. I think Trevor gets an attaboy for that.
Oh, got an attaboy.
Okay,
hard to come by.
Still going? Can we speculate a little bit? We only got like 5 minutes.
We got more people to thank. Can we run through the thank yous real quick?
Of course.
Then we can speculate.
Yeah, be quiet, Brad. We got stuff to do here. Kyle DeLille gave another $20. Says here's an extra 20 for Brad having to put up with Randall's bad jokes. Or maybe no, it says bald jokes. That's what it
Kyle
is.
DeLille.
Bald.
DeLille, yeah. I'm not planting any
$20.
new hair.
That $20 goes directly to Brad for having to put up with Randall's jokes. Okay.
Is Kyle? Is he coming to Montana? I think he might be coming to Montana.
I hope so.
I hope so.
That'll be cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we like hanging out.
Thanks, brother.
Dan QLD gave $50. Says I'm only 25 episodes into your Kosmographia streams, watching from the beginning, still loving it. Thanks for all of your work. And look, Brad has a beard, Randall has a studio, and the shiny boys aren't as shiny, so I must be way behind. Yes, you are.
Got to keep up with the current events here, man.
Yeah, bro.
Unicorn horns, $10. Great conversation as always, fellas. Catch you guys on the next meetup. This $10 is for Brad. Brad's getting lots of support.
Thank you.
There's an upside to me giving you grief. People feel sorry for you.
25 years, people. 25 years I've been hanging out with this dude. Help.
Help.
Okay, here's a question for Peter from Chuck. Chuck gives $5 and says, okay, I'm paying an extra $5 to see if I am right that Peter is right now wearing sandals.
Nah, I'm barefoot.
Oh!
Even better. Barefoot. I'm barefoot.
There's like
I'm
a whole
barefoot.
betting thing going on.
people are
$15 on sandals, $5 no sandals.
That's Verity. Thank you, Verity.
Oh, there's a whole
Yeah, they're all
pool
betting with
going
each
on.
other, yes, on whether or not Peter is wearing sandals.
We love this.
When we were on the Scablands trip, I had walked all over these goat heads, and my sandals were completely covered. So Chuck had to come over with a knife and rip them all off.
Oh, that's right. That's what it was.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's right.
Oh, that's right. I remember that now, and I'm going, who's this guy out here in sandals?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so Matt.
All right, so pay up.
Yeah.
All you people that put money up for the sandals,
you owe it
pay
again.
Free toes. Free toes.
Matt
All
put
right,
up
so
$5 for
let
sandals. And
I think we should have a betting pool on whether or not Brad is wearing pants.
he's just trying to make more money for Brad, folks.
I am. No. Okay. Oh man. Whew.
That's great.
I was worried for a moment there.
it's like, oh my God, he's in boxers. Nope, those are shorts. Okay.
And end of that one.
So
No
Brad-
shoes though. I'm
Brad is not
toe
wearing
free.
pants.
Toe free.
All
These
right.
now with Peter's backdrop there, it makes me want to start talking about the moon.
Yeah,
And
People
we have
run out
a
of time.
request for you to talk about the moon from Erin. She also, I think,
Cheese
requested
tease.
last time.
She's requested every time
Yes.
that you talk about the moon. So I think
Well, okay, so look, we've
Aaron
got
has
the
a thing.
we got 1 minute. Talk about
Yeah.
the moon for 1 minute.
Wait a
Randall.
second. Speculation. Go ahead.
Oh, okay.
well, we have the great Maria there behind Peter, which are basaltic, almost certainly from ancient great impacts. And what's interesting, if you look at here, like immediately to Peter's left from our viewpoint, you see the really big Maria there, and you see how they're circular. And what's interesting about these Maria is, and this is when we finally circle back and we really dive into the moon stuff. We'll talk about this in more depth. But what's really interesting about the Maria is the fact that they are so shallow. In fact, when you're at the center of the Maria, you don't even see the 1 or 2 mile high mountains that form the rim because the craters are so shallow. So somehow the physics of impacts are not being observed here. They're not being what am I trying to say here? It's past my bedtime. So what I'm saying here is that the shallowness of the craters is anomalous. The shallowness of the Maria is anomalous. That's all I'm going to say for right now.
And that's how I got Randall's attention first couple times we met. When I said that, he like perked up. It's like, who's this guy? How do you know that? So yeah, I had read Charles Hapgood.
Oh, yes.
Isn't it also quite a bit less dense than it should be, considering how strong it seems to be?
Well,
resistant to impacts?
At the center of each Maria are the mass concentration, the anomalous mass concentrations, known as mass cons, which doesn't seem to make sense given the overall homogeneous density of the moon, assuming that the density is homogeneous. And that's pretty much one of the assumptions. But these are all things we're going to get into when we really start talking about the moon. And it's coming up. But the problem with the moon stuff is that once that's out there, I think that there's going to be ramifications that, there's going to be backwash from that. And when that happens, we want to be ready for it.
Yeah.
All right.
Crypto Chris, thank you.
Yep. Thanks to the Happy Plague, Jason, JK, Chuck, again, Aaron, Crypto Chris.
Yes.
Everybody that we didn't mention. Sorry about that. We're trying to keep up, but, time flies.
That's right.
Just come through for us every episode. Thank you, Crypto Chris. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. And thanks to the whole chat. You guys are, as always, very entertaining. It's fun watching it go by. Thanks, Randall and Brad. We got to.
All right. I don't know. Can we do 3 minutes, Randall? I just wanted to ask.
Oh,
okay,
sure.
We don't know what's going to happen tonight. It could be nothing. It could be some crazy snowstorm from Cosmos. What if there was some kind of Tunguska event over a populated area tonight? what might change? What
I better go get another beer.
Oh
what would
my
happen?
God.
I know. I want to go outside and watch it.
I mean,
But you're right.
If you had a Tunguska event over a populated area, I mean, that's going to change everything. I mean,
millions of people would be incinerated.
Well, yes.
That's
over
crazy.
a populated area, yes, instantly. And yeah, I mean, it would be the kind of historical game changer that if history was still around 1,000 or 2,000 years from now, you know, people
It's a
would look
turning
back
point.
upon it. This is a major turning point.
Because we've said
Absolutely.
that if Tunguska would have been 3 hours later and would have hit St. Petersburg or Leningrad, you know,
Yeah.
there 20th century would have been totally different. There wouldn't have been a World War I, probably. I mean, it would just totally revamped what would be going on. So I just wonder, you know. So I just, you know, you hate it. The destruction's got to be the incentive or the catalyst to create change, but
Yeah.
sometimes that's what it takes. So, you know, I'm not asking for it, but we
Right.
don't know what's going to happen tonight. So I'm going to go out and watch and listen.
Yeah, I suspect that we're not going to have a Tunguska event.
Right.
But I mean, we could. I mean, what I'm hoping for is just a really spectacular meteor shower. And what time is it now here in Georgia? We're at 11:03.
Yeah, it's getting close. It's time to end the show so we can go watch.
Yeah.
Yep.
I'm like, come on.
He's trying to get out of here, folks. No,
right,
it's all
well,
good.
Great job. Thank you so much, Peter. Excellent.
Yes, thanks, Peter.
Yeah, man.
Thanks for
I'm
having
going
me.
to check out some of your free content and on howtube.com and you know, dig deeper and look forward to having you on another trip with us so we can get more details directly from you. So yeah, great having you.
Yeah, and you need to figure on getting you back again. I'm sure you have a lot more you can talk about.
Yeah. Well, thanks for having me. It's been a true honor coming on here and hanging out with all you guys tonight.
cool.
So thanks.
And you might make
Awesome
it out.
photographs.
Might make it out to the Scablands in September,
Maybe.
maybe. Okay.
All right.
I hope
Looking
so.
forward to it.
Cool, man. Thanks for coming on. Enjoy
Thanks,
your
Snake Bros.
I enjoy your
Good
work,
job.
and I'll be watching more of it.
All right. Good night,
Thanks.
everyone. Thanks
Good
for
night.
tuning in. Thanks for your comments, your questions, and your donations, everyone.
Yes.
Yes,
Very
thank you
much
all so much.
appreciated.
Yes. Good night, chat.
Go outside and
Brilliant.
look up.
That's right.
Thanks, y'all. Ciao.
All right. Stream ended.